Hello everyone, I'm Jim Longworth and welcome to another edition of Triad Today. Coming up later on, our infamous roundtable gets together. We'll see what those guys have to say, so stay tuned for that. But between now and then, some great guests and information coming your way. For one thing, we'll tell you how you can become a hospice volunteer, which is very important. And we'll take you inside the archives of UNCG. But first, we turn our attention to holidays and staying safe during them. And we have three very special guests with us that are going to help us through this topic. Our good friend next to me on my right, David Daggett, who of course is an attorney with Daggett Schuler. David and Griff have brought a special guest with them. Tim Henshaw is fire marshal for the city of Greensboro. Sort of been here, a new guy, only been here a few months. We welcome you to the area. And of course, Griff Schuler, bringing up the proverbial rear on this discussion, attorney with Daggett Schuler. Welcome, guys. Good to see you.
Thank you for having us.
David, I'm going to start with you. Before we get to fire safety, let's talk about something that's near and dear to your heart, because it has to do with the holidays too. Drunk driving, any tips you might have on that? If you're giving parties and you're serving alcohol, just give me just a quick tip about how that might work.
Yeah, real quick, because we want time for the fire marshal. Holidays, drinking and driving incidents cause nearly half of all deaths on our roadways. Big problem. So in what we do for a living, we've seen lives shattered due to drinking and driving. And so at parties, be safe, have non-alcoholic beverages, have snacks, those sort of things. Uber, taxi, ride with a friend, all of those issues. Gotcha. Same thing when you're going out in public.
All right, we talk about on the road, but before we get to the fire marshal, Griff, let's talk about at home. You deal with a lot of injuries that people sustained, sometimes through no fault of their own. How about injury prevention during the holidays at home?
Some of it is just common sense. Obviously, I think sometimes we want to get on top of a couch or something like that to put up Christmas decorations or that type thing. I think we need to be careful about that. If you look at the Center of Disease Control, they indicate one of the real concerns around this time of year, Jim, is choking of children. So one of the things is particularly small parts of toys and other things around the holidays is really watching children, and if you're a parent, is knowing what to do if a child is choking.
Good. That's a good thought. Watch where you're standing and the kind of ladders you're using, and keep an eye on the kids. Good, Griff. All right, Tim, let's go to you now, and I'm going to give you a few things. And actually, you sent me an email, so I'm going to throw a couple of terms at you and get you to comment on tips for the holidays. Christmas trees, talking live Christmas trees and decorations.
Well, here in North Carolina, you can get a fresh tree. We want you to get a fresh one. And when you bring it home, make sure you water it. Trim that base just a little bit so it absorbs the water.
Doesn't get dry.
Doesn't get dry, and then you have a very safe tree that you can decorate and put lights on.
But it can get dry. Is there anything we need to keep in mind, and where it's positioned and what could happen? Or?
Yeah, try to keep it away from open flames, a register, or some type of furnace. Keep it away in a corner of a room, and check that water periodically.
I know we have a candle on the desk. Folks at home can't see it, but that leads me to another thing. Any tips you want to give us on using candles? A lot of people like to put candles out during the holidays.
Candles, yeah, everybody likes to put them out there. Make sure that they're on a table, a flat surface. Make sure they're in a votive or some kind of container.
Right.
And if you have children and pets, we want them up high or don't use them at all.
It's amazing how dangerous candles are. In 1 year, $800 million property damage just off of candles.
It's staggering. Now, Tim, what about electrical outlets? Any do's and don'ts about that? People hooking up a lot of things?
Well, you have to be very careful because you can overload those outlets very quickly. Most circuits are only 15 amps, and you can see the different selection of Christmas lights in front of us. And when you start connecting multiple strings, plugging them into one receptacle, you could be overloaded and cause yourself to have a fire.
These are the old-fashioned lights that hang up, have these giant bulbs. The one David has are the smaller ones. But either way, I mean, you don't want to just keep, hooking these up and hooking them up. You want to have, as I call them, what do you call the three? Like this one, we have an extension cord here and sort of a ground to it.
It's a ground, so you have your three connections. You have your power and your ground that keeps you from being shocked. That's as safe as possible.
And before, I want to get some final thoughts from David. Very quickly though, Tim, can people call the general number at the fire department if they want to get classes or get information about it?
Yes, sir. You can call us 8 to 5 every day. We have staff available to come out to you.
You go to schools and organizations and things. Final thoughts on safety, David?
Well, they do lots of public service events, and we thank the Greensboro Fire Marshal's Office for all they do. Remember safety and security at home, safety and security when you're out shopping, bags in your car, most of all, don't drink and drive, and practice good fire safety around the house.
Right, and as Griff said, one of those things is don't stand on rickety things. I mean, I've been guilty of that. Get something firm like a ladder if you're getting them. I mean, so many people get injured through falls. Yes. Guys, thanks for all you do, and we'll see you on the other side of 2018.
Thanks for having us. Thanks, Tim.
We'll be right back now on Triad Today, and 'tis the season to be jolly. It's also the season to volunteer. And that's what we're going to talk about with our good friends from Mountain Valley Hospice and Palliative Care. On my right, our good friend Sheila Jones, who's been with us many times before. She's Director of Marketing for Mountain Valley Hospice and Palliative Care, and she brought a special guest with her, first-time visitor to Triad Today. Linda Walls, Volunteer Resource Coordinator for the Pilot Mountain area for Mountain Valley Hospice, also runs the Pet Peace of Mind program, which I think is the greatest ever. So welcome, ladies. Good to see you.
Glad to be here.
Sheila, before we get going and talking about volunteers, let's do as we always do when you've been on here for many years. Let's remind folks from the get-go what hospice is and who you serve.
We are Mountain Valley Hospice, and we serve 17 counties in northern North Carolina and Southwest Virginia. Surrey, Stokes, Yadkin, anything that touches those, and Carroll, Grayson, and Patrick, anything that touches those.
Right.
And we care for folks at end of life, 6 months or less, terminal illness, no matter what that illness might be. As long as they agree to services, we can take care of them.
Right, and you can do that in the home or in the hospice home, and there's 2 of those now.
We have 2 of those now, yes, one in Dobson, the Waltz Hospice Home, and the SCCU Hospice Care Center out of Yadkin County.
Right. Now, let me just ask you very quickly, though. I want to reiterate that you are a nonprofit, so how does that benefit patients and families?
What that really tells folks is that we're a nonprofit, so therefore everything that we make goes back into our organization to start other programs, like you mentioned, Pet Peace of Mind or our Veterans Program, whatever those programs, to meet the needs of the community.
Yeah.
So we don't have those going to an executive somewhere,
Right.
pad in his pocket.
Right.
But the other piece of that is that we have the ability to take care of patients who don't have insurance. We don't turn them away based on that. We
Now,
look for other means and other ways.
I know you have professional staff, you have chaplains, you have all sorts of people, doctors that come in and help. But how important are volunteers to hospice?
Volunteers are the utmost importance. We could not do what we do without our volunteers. And I can't just say that. It's part of our regulations that we have to have a certain amount of patient contact hours done by volunteers.
And you have great ones. Linda, let me
We
go
do.
to you. Are you in need of volunteers now?
We're always in need of volunteers because we have a continuing growing amount of patients and patients declining and passing away, and so it's all part of a process. And sometimes we'll get volunteers that come in because of their relationship before, and we serve their family,
right.
and they're working through their grieving process and their giving back process, and then they cycle out. They're going through a transitional life.
Sure.
They go back to work, that kind of stuff. So we're always looking.
Always grateful to have them as long as you can have them. And
Exactly.
Yes, very
now,
much so.
what kind of things? If I say, okay, Linda, I want to sign up to be a hospice volunteer. My question to you is, what kind of things will I be able to do? What will you have me do?
We try to utilize a person where they are. So whatever your skill set is, whatever you bring to the table, we will use you in some way. We have so many different kind of programs. We will find a place that's earmarked for you. We have people do crafts. We have people make prayer shawls. We have people that work with pets, like Pet Peace of Mind.
Right.
But our main requirement and our main need, of course, is for people to be with the patients, patient-family volunteers. And in that situation, you don't have to have any special skill set. You just have to have a heart for people that are struggling, that are going through an end-of-life process.
Yeah, because sometimes you're talking to the patients, sometimes you're talking to the patients' families, their loved ones, trying to
Right.
comfort them. And if you have a good way about you, I mean, you'll know. I mean, when you come in for screen, you screen the volunteers first, so you kind of know
Exactly.
what.
Exactly.
Sheila, what kind of feedback have you received over the years from patients and families about the volunteers?
Think about it. We've gotten great feedback. Some of the families are very appreciative because that volunteer maybe can stay in the home with the patient so the caregiver can get out and go run an errand, go to
Right.
the grocery store,
Right.
be normal. Because when they're taking care of someone in the home, it's 24/7, 7 days a week, it doesn't go away, so they can get out and have a couple hours of a break. It also gives that volunteer and that patient, the patient someone to have a companionship with.
And let's make this clear too before time runs out, that just to reiterate a point you brought up earlier, hospice care can be given in the home or at a hospice home. And a lot of families say, look, I want to be, or a patient will say, I want to be at home throughout the duration, and that's fine. If it becomes something where the family, the loved ones cannot care for a loved one the way they want, then that's when they explore maybe going to one of the
And
hospice
we take
homes.
care of that patient anywhere that patient calls home.
Exactly.
We've cared for patients who lived under a bridge, they live in a campground, move from campground to campground, wherever that person calls home. In a facility, we go to facilities, nursing
Right.
homes, assisted livings, the whole 9 yards.
Well, up on screen is the information on the website, mtmvalleyhospice.org, and please look at that site for more information, all the ways you can help by donating time, money, be a volunteer, and help Linda in what she's doing. Thank you, ladies,
Thank you
for
so
all you
much.
do.
Thank you.
God bless you. We'll be right back. On Triad Today, I always like to get this gentleman here whenever we can get him. He can spare the time. He's very busy and a great community servant. Next to me, our good friend, David Mounts, Chairman and CEO of Inmar, of course. Welcome back to Triad Today.
Thanks, Jim.
I want to do something that we haven't done before, which is there are a lot of things always going on. We're promoting things that you're doing for the community, very specific things. I'd like to, just for my own benefit and for the viewers, sort of do a generic sort of summary of things that are going on with Inmar throughout the year. First of all, let's just remind people who just moved into the area what Inmar is and what you do, what you offer.
Inmar is a tech-enabled business services and analytics company.
And how does that impact on me or a viewer who goes to the store or to the pharmacy or buys groceries? How is Inmar in our lives?
Well, we're supporting many of the businesses that are serving you. It's if you've ever been into a store and used any type of promotion or gotten your prescription filled or returned a product, chances are Inmar made that happen. You know, we're in the midst of a revolution right now. It doesn't matter whether your services are business to business or business to consumer or consumer to consumer or business to government. It doesn't matter whether you're government to consumer. You are being impacted by these technological advances. And many institutions, many businesses don't have the people with the skills, they don't have the resources to take advantage of all of these technologies and apply them into their businesses, but they know they can help them.
Right.
So that's where Inmar comes in. We come in, we are constantly assessing these technologies, putting them together into solutions and applications that people can use and get what they want done, ultimately in service to their consumers.
I think you told me one time it was 1980 that John Whitaker, his Inmar, I'm going to say his Inmar, was sort of a coupon processing company. How are things different from his implementation and vision then?
Well, John started us off with just great DNA. You know, John believed in using technology to make problems solvable. And so in that regard, we haven't changed at all.
Right,
you know,
right.
We're still doing that, and we continue to do that. The technologies have changed. We've broadened the scope quite a bit as we've found more opportunities, and certainly that's been fun. But the DNA of looking at technologies and applying them with, you know, smart data-driven solutions is very much what Inmar is about today.
I want to review some of the things that you do throughout the year for the community and just get you to make a quick comment on each one as I throw it out. Community Tech Night.
This is equivalent to doing pro bono services in tax or legal, which we've all known about for years. We're doing the same thing for technology.
Sure.
If you don't have those skills, you can come into one of our community tech nights and we'll help you. Whether it's understand how to use your software, fix your laptop, work on your phone, any type of technology, our technicians are there to help make you smarter.
The Girls on Fire robotics team.
Yeah, we do mentoring here, and we are trying to educate, in particular, middle school and high school girls in the areas of STEAM. We want to see more of those girls matriculate into STEAM professions.
You have analytics and Math Matters events as well.
We're inviting students in from the local school districts and showing them the importance of their math classes and how that turns into jobs for them down the road. And so it's a great way for them to start to envision themselves as they work through those classes to say, well, why am I learning this? It doesn't matter to me. No, it does matter.
Right.
And here's a job you could have as a result of it.
I tell you, there's so many things going on at Inmar with internship programs, partnerships with Wake Forest, all sorts of things you're doing throughout the year. And I've just been remiss over time when you would sit here with me and never really have had a chance to just sort of summarize those, but there's so many. And that's why I also want folks to go to the website, because as some of these things come up throughout the year, you'll know it. You'll see the information on the website, which is www.inmar.com. And I'll say it again for our radio listening audience on WSJS, www.inmar.com. Always something going on there, always great community servants, and it will give you some background on what the company does as well. We couldn't do what we do and live the way we do without you, my friend.
Well, this is a team sport. We're all in for the Innovation Quarter, Winston, and the Triad.
Thanks, David.
Thank you.
We'll be right back after this. Back now on Triad Today. I'm shaking my head because I'm really freaked out by this thing sitting on the desk. We might as well, Lori, let's just go to this right now. I mean, this is scary. We'll see it we'll make an edit on there. But I tell you what, it's a death mask of Dr. Charles McKeever, who was sort of the founder of UNCG, and you can see a statue of him and everything. And why is it here? Because We have somebody very lovely sitting next to me. We're going to get her to be. She's responsible for freaking me out. Erin Laurenmore is a university archivist at the university for the university libraries. Wears many hats over there. Erin, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
This is now we have this here because this is actually where, and when it's not sitting here on Triad Today, where is it?
It's in University Archives. So University Archives at UNCG is based out of Jackson Library, the main library on campus. And right now it's actually on exhibit in the library as part of our celebrating 125 years.
Big years,
exhibit.
yeah. And of course, to be serious, this death mask of Dr. McKeever was used to make the statue of it, right? Wasn't it?
It was indeed. They, McKeever actually died. He was just shy of his 46th birthday and died.
I was shy at my
suddenly.
46th birthday too.
But yeah,
I got over
they
it.
made the mask of him because they knew that he had made important contributions to North Carolina and wanted to commemorate that.
Well, now, how do you keep up with everything? Because I'm assuming that there's a lot of stuff over there, right?
There is thousands and thousands of linear feet and boxes of stuff. We have everything from letters that McKeever wrote and received to copies of our website today, everything that covers the 125 years. And you know, we arrange them, we catalog them, we make sure people send us things that they're supposed to send us.
That's neat.
And then we make them available.
And I think we even got a photo of an old science lab, It's kind of neat to look at these old things, isn't it?
Oh, it really is, and it really kind of informs what we're doing today too. The science lab it was actually the first science lab that women could use in the state of North Carolina.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, we were founded, of course, as a women's college
That's right.
and opened in 1892. And yeah, the lab that was constructed by two of our science professors, it was the first women could use in North Carolina.
I want to catch you off guard. We didn't rehearse this or anything,
Okay.
but as somebody who deals with this all the time, and maybe it's become second nature to you, but do you ever get excited about seeing something? Has something really interested you that's there?
Oh, all the time. You learn new stories every time you open a new box or look at a new folder. Every time you teach a new class with a student, something new comes up, and it always kind of either informs a story you already knew a little bit about,
Right.
or else it shocks you into thinking of a story in a completely different way, or tells you something you never even thought possible.
And so you're lecturing to the kids too, right?
Oh yes, we teach a lot of classes as well.
What about fun facts when you really want to startle the kids? Any fun facts that are associated with these massive archives?
Fun fact specifically about our archives, I think honestly, most people don't think of the archives when they think of digital materials and what we're doing today, and that's
Right.
one of the things that actually shocks the students. They're also a lot of times surprised just to know that not only are we there and in the library, but we want them to come in and use the materials.
So it's now. So all this is not just for students.
No.
The archives are open to the public.
Everybody.
What about a fee? If I come over to the Jackson Library and say, hey, I'd like to come in and see the archives, are they going to charge me to come in?
No charge. We're open Monday to Friday, 9 to 5 for anybody who has a research interest in university history or any of the other kinds of collections that
So
we
some
have.
of these are sort of look, don't touch things. Other things you can sort of look at and read as well. I guess you could probably even find my grades when I was there as a student, right?
Student grades are actually one of the things we don't have. We're
Yeah,
not
I bet.
allowed to.
It's
But-
confidential.
But we can find pictures of you.
Yeah, we have, well, yeah. I've been told there's a picture of me circulating from 1976 when I was just 4. Now, let's put up on screen. Now, the general website for UNCG, of course, is unc.edu. Is there something else that might get them directly to archives or what?
Sure, if you go to library.uncg.edu/archives,
Okay.
from that website you can find a lot about pretty much everything we have. You can find finding aids, which are kind of like guides to all the collections we have.
Right.
But you can also find digitized materials. We've scanned all the yearbooks, all the student newspapers.
Oh, I didn't know that.
All sorts of materials, all the commencement programs.
Wow.
Lots of things related to university history, and tons of really cool photos.
You just have a cool job.
I do.
And thanks for doing what you do and keeping up with this. It's important.
Thank you. I love it, and I think our story is important to tell.
It is. Thanks, Aaron. We'll be right back after this. Time for the roundtable. Before we get into that, a quick shout out to our friend Keith Granberry, who was supposed to be here today. He's with his mom, who is in hospital, and we wish her well. Now, on my right, but always political left, Ogie Overman, that great award-winning broadcaster and journalist. Next to him, Dave Plyler, chairman of the County Commissioners in Forsyth and longtime broadcaster, my friend of 200 years. And speaking of 200 years old, here's Don Martin, Dr. Don Martin. No, I'm just teasing. Dr. Don Martin, former school superintendent, now professor at High Point University, and holds forth on the county commissioners as well with Dave. They make up quite a twosome. Guys, let's get right to it. 1 year after promising To keep its workforce in Winston-Salem, Krispy Kreme's new owner is now laying off 90 local employees, saying they can expand into Charlotte and London. Now, here's the thing. Should a law be passed on a federal level that would allow the FTC or the SEC to actually fine companies like this who mislead local governments about their intentions just to consummate a deal? Okay.
Without knowing the specifics of the law, Jim, I'm sure there's some little, codicil in there that allows them to do that, but it would not hurt me to see that law passed at all.
Dave.
Okay, you're wrong. I hate to say this, but you absolutely cannot make statements that would hurt business, and business cannot operate. They're going to change. Everything is going to change sooner or later. And if I promised you today that I was going to be your best friend until tomorrow and I died, that wouldn't work, would it?
Well,
unless there's a law that
if,
keeps
if
them
they
from.
promised that they would do, if they put it in writing, they would not move jobs out of
That
here.
still doesn't change
That
things.
changes everything, Dave.
No, it doesn't.
Well, you have to go to the assumption they didn't know a year ago when they were making the deal that we're not even thinking about Charlotte and London, which
That's
I
true.
find
That's true.
hard to believe. Don.
Well, I think you'd have to make it very clear how long this would be true for. In other words, if you make a commitment, is this a binding 2-year issue? And in economic development projects, it kind of says you're going to do something over the next 5 years, and if you do it, you get your whatevers.
Right, you get the
and if you
incentives.
don't, you don't. And so it would have to be the same kind of thing that you set some kind of time.
Some kind of incentive-based thing that
Oh,
comes
by the way,
back.
Jim, I'd like to say I really like Ogie.
Yeah, right. For now. All right, speaking of unethical things going on, Duke Energy wants to pass along the cost of cleaning up coal ash spills to the customers. Will the courts let Duke Energy get away with this? Quickly, Ogie.
I think even honest Dave Plyler will agree with me on this one. If that one's cut and dry, they cannot pass that
David.
off.
I absolutely agree with my friend Ogie.
Don.
Well, I think they have to, obviously Duke Power's business is making electricity and preparing for the futures. Obviously they have a lot of money. So the payout, at some point, it may take some increase in rates, but by and large, you'd like to think there's a combination of sort of their fund balance and other things to make that work.
The North Carolina Lottery is considering offering online scratch-off games. Quickly, guys, you okay with that? Ogie.
I think I am. It's a wave of the future. It's not the future. It's here. Yeah. Why
David.
not?
I think so, but I'd like to see the entire lottery concentrate on education rather than what's going on now.
Donald.
Well, it's an addictive issue. Gambling's addictive, and when it becomes so easy to pop in a credit card number and do that, I could see how that could generate more of gambling addictions. However, and I've actually been thinking, what if you put a limit on how much you could bet online?
And then cut it off.
Some kind of way.
Interesting. That's interesting. Guilford County Commissioners will decide in January whether to start posting their legal notices on county's website instead of continuing to publish them in local newspapers. We talked about this before, but quickly, guys, which way will they decide? What's at stake? Ogie.
You know how I feel, Jim, as a former editor of several community papers. That will be the death knell of community papers if that happens statewide. Locally, Jamestown News is gone. Summerfield, Northwest.
And it's going to hurt the Greensboro.
Any of them who depend on legal advertisements are dead, dead in the water.
Trudy Wade's vendetta against the Greensboro News Record. Dave.
Now, you took the words right out of my mouth. This whole thing is political, and it's all based on Trudy Wade's attempt to get a revenge on the Greensboro Daily News.
Don.
I think the Guilford County Commissioners have already signaled their likely approval. Back after when this was discussed in the legislature, before it went to getting vetoed, they sort of said they'll do it and split on party lines, by the way.
Maybe more study, who knows, we'll keep our fingers crossed. Controversy still surrounds a 70-year-old Florida man who arrived at the hospital unconscious and had a "Do Not Resuscitate" tattoo on his chest. Guys, should a tattoo with medical instructions be recognized by doctors as a legal document? Ogie.
I think that's going to have to be put into law somehow to make that legal. Yeah, if it's tattooed.
That's what he wants,
sure.
David.
No, it's just crazy. Somebody could tattoo him after he's dead.
And you wouldn't know it.
No.
Don.
I agree with that. A body is not a legal document.
Well, you just heard it. Don Martin just made news. A body is not a legal document.
There you go.
Okay. How much time we have, Brian? Because that just threw me way off there. All right, guys. This has nothing to do with anything else, but more and more movie theaters are now requiring reserved seating for patrons. You okay with this policy, guys, or should we be allowed to sit wherever we want, Ogie?
I don't go to movies that often. It's not a big deal to me, but I don't like that in principle. I don't like that.
David.
Oh, I don't like it either, but the problem is how many people are going to be at the theater that will require that type of thing. It's just not going to happen.
Don.
I'm a free market guy. If that works and people go and do that, and I mean, you don't have to go to the movie and go to a different theater.
If they don't
If it
show
works,
up,
it
then
works. If
maybe
it
they'll
doesn't,
change it if you don't show up.
That's right, maybe.
Finally, guys, some insurance companies now offer drivers a discount if they let them install a tracking device in the car. Guys, is this a good idea? And is there any reason why you wouldn't want all of your movements to be tracked all day long? Ogie.
Yeah, there are a lot of reasons. Principle amongst them, it's none of your dang business.
David.
I don't
You
know
wanna
who
be
thought of that
follower?
idea, but we live in a technical age, and sooner or later somebody's going to figure out how it's going to be used. But I don't like it.
Yeah, they're going to figure out that you're over at Ogie's house arguing with it. Don, do you want to be tracked?
Well, I probably wouldn't mind if I got a strong enough discount on my insurance, because they'll see if you're a speeder. If you're not speeding, then you
Yeah.
ought to get a much better
Well,
rate, and they can
every-
track that.
Yeah,
I
everybody
want
has
you to know I agree with my friend Don.
Yeah, that's right. Everybody has a nickname. Dave's is Honest Dave Plyler. Now Don's is Fiscal Don Martin.
Absolutely.
All right, well, that's all the time we have. Oh, and it's our last roundtable of the season of 2017. We have some special shows coming up, but then we'll be back with a roundtable in January. Oh, I forgot to do this. A married woman in Bristol, England, says she has had sex with 20 different ghosts over the past 3 years. Said her angry husband, I just don't know what she sees in those ghosts. Don, what do you think, Don? You understand? Don's,
I got it.
Yeah, okay. For all of us here at Triad Today, all of us ghosts and people who disagree with each other, have a good holiday, everybody. We'll see you next time.